Sorry, y'all, I'm still getting used to the lives. So hopefully you can hear me, and if you're able to join, please just go ahead and drop a comment in here. Sorry I'm a bit late today. I try to do these like during my lunch break at work, but of course, you know, anytime I have something planned, yeah, stuff just happens at work. So anyway, it looks like I can see comments, so hopefully that is working. To go ahead and type something if you get a chance. But I am able to see the comment box, which I couldn't last time, so I think that is a good sign. Let's see. Okay, so today we are going to be talking about the big three, and this is part of the astrology series that I'm working on. And, you know, basically we're going to just go from like the most basic to, you know, getting a little bit more in depth with different aspects of astrology. So for those of you who are a little bit more familiar, you probably know what your big three are, but bear with me. There's a lot of people that just like don't know anything at all. So I want to go through each aspect of this. And in order to kind of participate with this live and then the next lives moving forward, you are going to want to have a copy of your chart. So on my last live, I did do a walkthrough of like, you know, how to do that. So it is saved. You can go through and do that if you need help. There's lots of websites, but I generally use astro.com. Astrodynst is the name of the site. So yeah, for today, we're going to be talking about the big three. So, let's see, go through that. The big three is basically your sun, your moon, and your rising sign. So most of us like all know our sun sign. And if you don't know your moon and rising, this is a really great way to kind of get to know more about your personality and, more about, just a little bit, you know, about yourself. So sometimes, you know, we think of our sun sign. There's people who say, I don't really relate to my sun sign. Well, that's because that's not the whole picture. And the sun, the moon, and the rising is not the whole picture either, but it should give you kind of a lot of information. So it'll give you a lot that you need and just give you tons of info, kind of the core of your personality. So the sun sign, again, most of us know this one. If people ask you like, what's your sign? You're looking at kind of your daily horoscope, like whatever, you know, the kind of really, really basic stuff. That's going to be all about the sun sign. So your sun sign is your vital life force energy. And if you think about how it works really in space and in the world and all of that, we think of the sun, it's the center of our solar system, and it's what gives the earth life. And this is kind of, you know, really can be attuned to what we see in terms of us too. So this is, you know, what our core essence is in a lot of ways with our sun sign. Hi, Patricia. Good, I see comments, thank you. So we couldn't live without the sun really in the earth, nourishing the world, right? So it takes 1 year to go through all the signs, and this is how, you know, we see each of the different horoscopes or the zodiac signs throughout the year. So the month that you're born in, around the 20th of each month, is when it switches into a new zodiac sign, and that is going to be your sun sign. So more about the sun sign, it can also be associated with your heart. So it's kind of like your core essence is your heart. And what do you need in terms of your life to make your heart feel happy and your soul, your heart and your soul here? What do you need to feel satisfied in life and to feel fulfilled? And also you can ask yourself, like, where do I need to shine? This is an important aspect when you look at the sun and, you know, you think about what you're here to do, who you're supposed to be in this lifetime. And so as you're thinking about that, if you don't feel connected to your sun sign, you may not actually be fulfilling your purpose. So that's something to kind of look at. You know, don't look at anything black and white, right? There's a lot that plays into everything, But if you're really disconnected from your sun sign, it could be, you know, that you're disconnected from your life purpose. That can be kind of hard to sit with, but, you know, look at that and see if there's some way, if that feels true to you or things as well. So kind of along with your soul, your heart and soul, it also aligns to our ego. It's the core expression of our personality. So again, it's not the whole personality. Your personality is comprised of your whole chart, but really, you know, sometimes people will say like your sun and your rising are the more core personality that you would see, maybe like 75-80%. But really like your sun sign on the most basic is going to be the core expression of your personality. And that's kind of the gist. Some other things would be like your goals and ambitions too. So that is it for the sun sign. Any questions about the sun sign? And I'll get into like how you can find this on your chart too. All right. So for the moon sign, this is going to be your internal subjective reality. So this is kind of like the unconscious, the hidden side. And depending on how much either shadow work or just kind of, you know, knowledge about yourself, like how much you've gone into the depths of your psyche, like is going to be how much you really know about yourself. I think most of us as like witches or spiritual people, like we tend to have a good understanding of ourself, maybe more than like the typical person walking around, but not always. And there's always more to explore, especially as we go through different phases of our life. But it is kind of more unconscious, how you feel, how you just relate to things in the world on a deep level, like what your initial feelings are. It can also, you know, be the side that people don't really know about you. So when they, you know, first meet you, they might not see this aspect. And then as they get to know you and get to see kind of your inner workings, you develop that deeper bond and relationship, then they may really start to see your moon sign. Our intuition is, of course, aligned to our moon sign as well. So, you know, this is really important as we do our spiritual workings and we think about kind of like as we connect to more esoteric things and just looking at that. I mean, it connects so deeply into our emotions and how we feel, right? A lot of parts of witchcraft really do go into like our feelings. So I think as, you know, a witch, of course we work with the moon too, but just really looking at your moon sign, I think can be a very powerful part of your craft. Let's see what else I got in my notes. So when you think about how the moon affects the planets, right? We have the tides, there's the phases of the moon. People, you know, hospitals always say on a full moon, there's more people that get injured and things like that. And that oftentimes comes from like, you know, subconscious things and hidden things and just kind of whatever's happening within our psyche. So let me turn my computer back on just in case I need it on there. Let's see. So another thing too is with our feelings is the moon sign connects to the intensity of our feelings. So if you think about, you know, the different parts of the moon or different signs in the moon, we can start looking down the line as we have a deeper understanding, like what those signs mean and how they affect us. Some signs will affect each person a little bit deeper, a little bit differently, right? And so that intensity of the connection and the depths of the connection really play into the moon sign. Another one is with your natural instincts. So your first reaction is oftentimes aligned to the moon sign. And this is going to be, you know, not the reaction that you've thought about and you've planned out and you've, you know, really thought through a decision. It's kind of like maybe if you had like a Aries moon sign, you might be a little bit more hot-tempered, something like that. It's your initial reaction based off of your feelings. Like I'm a Pisces, so I tend to kind of take things a little bit personally, like more personally than I probably should. And when I take a step back and I think about it, then I tend to be like, okay, you know, it's really not that big of a deal. But my first instinct is to kind of feel maybe a little bit wounded. And that's just, because that's my initial feeling, because that aligns to my moon sign. And then my sun is in Aries, and so that is, really all about self. I can be a little bit hot-tempered when I think about things more, actually, so it's kind of different maybe than what some people would have, but that aligns very well to my, my signs. Let's see. So the other side is nurturing. So your moon sign is all about how you nurture yourself, and also it connects with kind of your mother energy too. So your relationship with your mother or maternal figures in your life can be kind of predicted by your moon sign. So look into that. Look into the moon sign, how you feel about your mother and the relationship that you have, especially kind of with the emotional aspects. And with the sun sign, that can actually represent like the father figure as well. So looking at the relationship with your father, there can be some, aspects there. And that's kind of a secondary, or maybe even, less than that side, but it is something that some astrologers bring weight into. So it just depends. Not every astrologer looks at those aspects, but, they're good to consider and see how they sit for you. So your rising sign is also called the ascending sign. And this is the sign that is on the eastern horizon at the exact time and place of your birth. So this is where the day and the time is so critical to find your rising sign. The sun sign, you have about a month before that changes. The moon sign is, I think it's a day and a half, don't quote me, but it's a couple days before it's going to shift over to the next sign. So even if you don't know the time of your birth, you can either know for sure, or you would know between two signs of what your moon sign would be. But the rising sign is going to change every hour, every couple of hours. And so it is really important to have, because if you're even off just by sometimes, 30 minutes, it could be a completely different sign. So this is where the time of birth is really important. And then, of course, the location too. So it doesn't need to be an exact physical address location, but city and state, or, at least a general area of where the city would be is going to be accurate. And I actually wanted to show you a picture just so you can kind of see what that looks like. Before I get into it, hopefully you're able to see this. But if you look here in this book, this is what the rising sign looks like. And I think it's, of course, mirror imaged for you. But so if you think about like the sun being in the center, or the earth is here, right? Sorry, I guess that's the earth. And then the outside is like all of the different, it's like the night sky. And so the eastern side, which on my paper is actually on the left side of the paper, it's flipped because then the sun is down here and the night is there, just the way that astrology is laid out. But this line right here, the ascendant or the rising, this is where which zodiac sign shows up on the horizon. So if you think about the horizon, being like, this is where we're, walking on the earth, and this is what's on the other side of the sphere, that's what you can see exactly where that is. So as we know, the night sky, it shifts. Everything is shifting. And even if you look at the stars and you lay out there for a while, you see that. And so you'll see the constellations moving around. So that's exactly like what that is there on the ascending. Okay, so what does that mean? And if you think, I kind of wanted to show you the example so that we all know what the sun and the moon does, but the rising sign, if you think about that, it's kind of like the lens that we see through into the world. So if you're thinking about like, a camera or glasses or something, right? You can put a different lens on the same camera and you would have a different perspective. Maybe you're, have a zoom lens and you can see things really far away, or you have, you know, a portrait lens and you're able to get like a really nice blur in the background, and, you know, you see things maybe a little bit more beautifully, or whatever kind of lens you're looking for. There's not like one that's right or wrong. It's just that it's going to create a different image because you have a different lens. And this is how we see the world. So kind of looking at that mother-father aspect of the other side, this, when you think of it like that, is kind of like when you're first born into the world and you take your first breath, the rising sign is on the horizon. And this kind of identifies in a lot of ways as yourself. That's not to say that the sun sign is not yourself. Sorry, I got the frog. But this is really the lens that you see yourself and how you really process and interact with everybody. So this is how you perceive the world, and that the world also perceives you. It filters the interactions and our experiences that we project outwardly, and it's the persona that we take on. So this, when you look at your sun sign plus your rising sign, you're really going to see so much of the personality. The moon sign, you know, is the personality that you see when you get really, really close to someone and you're experiencing, you know, deeper emotions. But for most people that you interact with, you don't get that deep of a bond. So your rising and your sun sign together is going to be kind of really most of the person, especially as you are just getting to know them, how they're just kind of acting a lot on their day-to-day. Those two are probably, I would argue, maybe the most important for your personality. And kind of going back to that analogy of like taking your first breath in the world and really knowing what sign is out there. With this, it really represents our early childhood. So that doesn't mean that you really grow out of it necessarily, but it's how you were shaped. So it's your first impressions, it's what you see, it's how you processed everything, and that builds the foundation of us. So for instance, I am a Capricorn rising. I, as a child, like really had to learn how to grow up quickly and process things, kind of fend for myself a lot of the time. I was definitely praised for adult-like behaviors, you know, doing things, learning things, teaching things. I started my own businesses when I was like a little kid. All of that was very rewarded for like me also as a child. And then if I was being like too childlike or immature or anything like that, even though I'm a child, it was kind of like reprimanded. And that really is kind of a theme that a lot of people with like astrology or with the Capricorn rising in their astrology have. So you know, Capricorn's also associated with the devil. And so I learned very quickly, you know, what do I need to get what I want? And that doesn't mean it's necessarily like manipulative. It's just, okay, this is what I need. This is how I can achieve what I want. And that's, you know, a big part of Capricorn is what you want to do, what you want to achieve, you know, creating things like that. And then for me, I also have a lot of other Capricorn in my chart. And so personally, you know, that energy comes out very, very strong because not only is it my rising sign, but because it's in the other parts of my chart, it's very amplified. And so if you think about how we use quartz crystals to like amplify our spell work, we can think about other signs in our chart amplifying those aspects. So, you know, if you have like predominantly like a couple of signs, then you're going to know like just right off the bat, hey, these signs are really strong and they're very amplified in your chart. Sorry, my screensaver keeps coming on. Okay. What else do I say here? Okay. Some more about the rising sign is it represents your appearance too. So a lot of people will say that you tend to look like your rising sign. I don't know really much about that, but I just know that that's something that is said, you know, for different people. And there's, I think, even a book out there that shows physical characteristics associated with the sun and the rising sign. But yeah, I think the rising sign is supposed to be more of like your features, or like your, like maybe how you, like your quirks, things like that. Okay, so any questions about any of that so far? Okay, so let me show you basically how you find these things in your chart. So this is my chart, so hopefully you're able to see. This stuff, it is kind of like lined out for you in, there's like a little key right here. So the sun and the moon are right at the top. And hopefully it's not backwards, but you'll get the gist anyway. So the sun and the moon are listed out for you at the top. And then you'll see up here for the astro.com one, the ascendant is the same as the rising. So those words are really interchangeable, and you'll be able to see that on there. So, and I think it has like sun too, but essentially these are all your planets, and we'll get into all of this later, but this is basically the, you know, the big three: the sun, the moon, and then your ascendant up here at the top. And then here again, you can see what I was showing, that really basic picture. This is, you know, the full chart. So when we look at, let me see if I can grab a pen. Okay. When you look at the whole chart up here, this is the east and this is the west. And so for the mirror image, sorry, I know this is probably challenging. But basically, you know, if this is the left side of my paper and this is the right. And so it's kind of backwards than like what you would think of for a compass, but essentially this is the day, or sorry, this is the night, and this is the sun, or the time. This is the time. Sorry, just forget what I said right there. But this is the image of the night sky. I was personally born at night, so that's why I just thought of that. But this is my chart, and so when I was born, it was about 1 a.m., so 12:59, and I have Capricorn right here on the ascendant, so this is right what was on the horizon, and you can see what I was talking about. I've got a lot of signs over there, a lot of planets in that sign, and then you'll see these are the other stars that were up in the sky, so at that time. All right, so hopefully you have a kind of better idea a little bit on the chart, and I'll get into more of that, kind of how they all interact and things in future lives. Hey, Sarah, and thank you, Patricia. I really appreciate that. It's hard to teach. It's a lot of different info. I'm still getting used to Facebook and all of that. I'll have to figure out how to like get the camera on the other side so you can see it better for next time. But yeah, that's basically it in terms of the big three. So yes, there is a website. The website is astro.com, astro.com. And there's others out there, but that's the one I use. And actually, my previous live does do a walkthrough on how you can get your chart if you do need help with that. So I walk through all the steps so you can get it. Yes, it is confusing. It takes a long time to learn. It's not something where you can just really like pick it up and learn it right away. I thought it was really confusing at first too. But essentially, you know, I'm trying to break it down into ways that are a little bit more bite-sized, and that way you can see how it all pieces together. Personally, I don't feel it's worth like memorizing. It's like you can't memorize everything, right? Like this is a good book. It's called The Only Astrology Book You Ever Need. This is a really outdated version, so I know there's like newer ones, but as you can see, you know, it's a massive book. Like it's quite large, you know, 400 something pages. It's a textbook, and this really is actually pretty basic. There's not really anything more than just the basics in here. So, you know, I think if you are really trying to memorize stuff, like just learning the basics of what the signs mean and what the planets mean is going to be like more than enough in terms of like what you can work with. I personally think astrology is so critical for like my witchcraft, and everyone's practice is different. So I definitely don't want to like put any like pressure on you to learn it if you're not interested. But I use it all the time. I look at like what's happening with the sun and the moon, and, you know, past just the sign, like what phase the moon is in, but what sign is it in? What's the rising sign? And I really try to time stuff out with my work in that way. And for me, I get way better results when I look at stuff like that. But you kind of have to understand the basics before you can even do that. And just like, you know, a lot of the ancient myths and things say is know thyself first. So the first thing is really looking at your own chart and really understanding your own chart really, really well. All right, let me check on the comments. Yes, definitely a lot. And thank you, Sarah. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I definitely agree. It's way easier to take bite-sized information out of this. Yeah, the book recommendation, this one is a good one. I'll show it again. The only astrology book you'll ever need. I think this one is from like the 70s or something. So definitely get a new one. It has all of the, let's see. This. It's got like the tables and stuff in here, which is really nice. But this one is so dated that they're like old. So yeah, get the newer one so you can have like up-to-date info. Let's see, another book that I have is called Mercury in Retrograde. This one I picked up at like Five Below. So I think it was like $5 or something. And it's okay. I wouldn't say it's great. It's really basic. You know, it's super affordable, which is nice. And I think it actually doesn't even have rising information in here, which I find pretty problematic. I've read a few more over the years, like nothing really like stands out to me. I think the only one that I've ever kept is that big astrology book. And then this one I picked up pretty recently, but I'm probably gonna get rid of it, to be honest. Yeah, I've read some others. I think Chani has a good one, or Chani, Chani. She's like a more popular astrologer online. I have read her book. I thought it was pretty good. And then there's a lot more like in-depth advanced stuff, but really you've just got to get like a good grasp on the basics first. Yeah, Patricia, I know the feeling. I have given up on it too. But yeah, just don't. I would say don't. Like, just know that it's a lot. You don't need to be an expert. I know like other parts of our crafts and our practices, like it's like you got to learn all the information before you get into it. And I do not feel that way about astrology at all. You know, you're already born, so you have the blueprint. It's not going to change. It's just kind of learning how to work with it. And like I said, you know, I have been pretty like heavily researching, like I would say, astrology since I was in high school. So that's like 15 years more, probably more at this point. And yeah, almost 20 years. And I still consider myself a novice. Like I definitely have the basics down, but I still have to look up the meanings of stuff. I still have to like go through everything. I still forget sometimes what my own signs are in. So don't worry about like memorizing it all. Give yourself like cheat sheets and tools and things like that. It will make it so much easier. You can get your chart. You can get like, you know, quick reference guides of the houses, of the planet meanings, of the sign meanings. And that way you just like kind of have it at your fingertips. And yeah, think of it as like a calculator or a glossary or something so that you're working on stuff. But we'll get way more into all of that. Any more questions about just the big three? What would you recommend for someone who doesn't know their birth time and cannot ask parents or older family when it was? Um, that's a really hard question. You're unfortunately just not going to know things about your chart if you don't have your birth time. There's people who are adopted, will never be able to get it. And it just, it's unfortunate, but that's just kind of how it is. You can only do so much with your chart without knowing these things. I mean, if you do have your birthday, then you can do like you'll of course know your sun sign. You can probably get your moon sign, or you'd be between two. And yeah, I mean, there's other things you will know as well. Like there's stuff that, only moves like every few years and stuff. So you can kind of start mapping things out. You're probably gonna have to do like more of it, maybe even by hand, because I can't think of any resources online because they all need the time. But I'm sure they're out there. Like there's probably ways you can find like more parts of your chart online with some tool. I just don't know one. If you can't ask for it, like at least if you're in the US, you can ask the government for it. So you don't have to have that conversation with anybody. I'm assuming, you're an adult. But yeah, I mean, if it doesn't exist or you had like a closed adoption or something, then you may not be able to get it. And that's, it's just something you're gonna have to learn to live with. And I don't have a great answer for it either. Cheat sheet live. I do like that idea. So I don't know if I necessarily need a live for it, but I can definitely pull together some resources and I can stick them, I guess, in the unseen and maybe Google Classroom or both. And yeah, can go through that. I'm glad that was helpful, Sarah. All right. Well, I will be trying to do this. I think I have it scheduled for like every other week. That might have to change, if stuff comes up, but that's the cadence I'm going to try to go into. I'll try to keep everything, relatively bite-sized like this so that you can go back and look stuff up if needed. And yeah, thanks for joining. And for anyone watching on the replay, definitely drop questions. I'll keep my eye on here and try to respond whenever I can. Bye.